allow you to be upright, not only using the muscles of the upper body, but the roots down in around the hips and the back of the legs and hamstrings. Many people during our hibernating year have been sitting a lot and working on computers, or even standing can be not so great if you're kind of sitting into your or standing into your hip joints. So as you configure yourself on your mat, your cross-legged seat, make sure you have a strap handy, a towel, use that to sit on. That's about it in terms of props, other than a wall. So if you can get the back of the mat to the wall, you're going to use that initially, almost the way you use a bar in ballet class or bar class to work on those legs. And before we get started, as people drift in, go ahead and take your legs forward. You can rest your hands back and just try this very simple exercise. You're going to inhale, drag one of your heels along the floor, pushing down into the floor, and exhale, push forward. And you can go for a walk with both legs. What I want you to try and feel is all the muscles retracting in the back of the leg, the underside of the leg of the knee you're bending. So again, folks just coming in, we're just, as usual, playing around trying to find a subtle action, which is absent from most people's yoga practice, if not the way that they move through the entirety of their day. Now, it's pretty easy to feel the meat or the belly of the hamstring. You dig in there and just feel it tensing as your knee bends. And this allows you to lift your chest, this retraction of the back of the leg. So as you go for your little walk here, we'll just do a few more so as not to max out the psoas muscle, which is also helping retract the knee. But it almost allows you to pull yourself forward and hug that knee and then lift your chest, as if you're about to enter Marichyasana. So play with that just a little more. Drag one knee back toward you, pull your chest toward it, and then release the leg from captivity. And just try to feel what's going on in the core, since Monday is also typically our core day, and in the back of the bent leg. Actually, no mean feet, pardon the pun. So again, dragging, retracting like a coil the back of the leg, pressing the chest forward, and the bandha, Uddiyana bandha, transverse abdominals, are also in play. So, relaxing for a second, if you were to drag one foot toward you and then wing the knee out into your Sukhasana, drag the other heel toward you and then wing that knee out, and then move yourself forward. Now you've constructed your cross-legged seat with these muscle engagements, hopefully on board, all the way down to the outer hips. You can feel, if you dig in down where the hammy meets the glutes, Uddiyana bandha, and then set the hands on the knees. And let's bring the palms to the heart. And notice if the legs are subtly, and the core are subtly knitted together from these subtle actions, that the spine can lift from the back ribs, as we worked on last week. And you can get tall from the base. So let's begin class now with an Om. Inhale. Om. And release. So later on in class, when we come back to our seat, any forward fold we do, I want you to think of as having that action of retraction and subsequent drawing into the belly. That's our mission today. And let's see if we can move it a little further now. So one of the other tasks is going to strengthen the back of the legs. We have to lengthen the front of the leg, the psoas. So if you just take your right hand behind you and draw that right knee in on inhale, exhale, drop it over to the right and take an easy twist. Come back to center, straighten the legs. Inhale, left leg comes in toward you, pulling that left belly in, retracting right under the high hamstring, high up in the leg. Exhale, drop that left knee to the left and a little rotation. And now we've added a little piece. And same thing, right side, inhale, exhale, drop, rotate. Just to feel the leg curling in almost the way a coil would retract, and then keeping that retraction, let the upper body lift and rotate. The next time we go to the right side, take a peek. A little tricky, but fun. Inhale, right knee comes in. Exhale, drops. I rotate, and then I come right onto the top of that right shin. So I've got my left leg back now. And I'm looking between my hands. So my balance between the hands and the right shin, the left toes are back. I'm just going to pulse and lift that left leg up and down about 6 inches. And just feel the muscles in the back of the upper leg getting some work. Keep your shoulder blades protracted apart, pushing your upper arm bones apart. I'm just giving you a different view here. And so now we're really specifying that lift. And then we're going to drop back down into that right hip where we started and slide that right leg forward. Again, a little tricky, but watch. Now the left leg comes in. I retract right up into that left gut. I roll left. I keep rolling, and I come up onto that left shin. My right toes are back, and I just go for a little kick. Lifting that right leg, using the muscles where the upper hamstring meets the glute. And again, for a lot of people, these are not used very much. And then we'll do the first side again. Take a peek. We're going to come into a kneeling Ardha Chandrasana this time. So right leg comes in, inhale, exhale, rotate right. Get onto that right shin and a little flutter kick with the left leg. Then see if you can open that left hip over the right. Come into your kneeling Ardha Chandrasana. And you can do this if you're more of a vinyasa person. Lift, rotate, keeping tone in the back of the leg muscles, and make it into a playful vinyasa. So we're lifting up the leg, keeping the tone in the back of the leg, and then maybe you can, the upper body floats up through the engagement of this back leg. Those that want to have extra fun can grab the left foot, track the back of the hammy, and start to stretch open the front of that left hip. But never fear, we'll have plenty of opportunity to do that in a second. Come back to your seat. Again, just tumbling around on our mats playfully, and now we retract the back of the left leg, drop the left knee over, roll that way, use your hands to crawl and face behind you, and then little lifts of the right leg. Isolating this muscle, the upper hammy glute, then maybe as you lift, roll open the right hip, reach up with the right arm. And that's up to you whether you can balance on that left hand, but using the strength of this right hammy, maybe grabbing the foot if you're feeling warmed up, but otherwise wait for it. And then we come down to seated again. So that's our mission for today in a nutshell. And let's, without anything too much tricky, doing too much tricky things right off the bat, let's come into hands and knees and take a child's pose, drop in. And then come up to your first downward dog. You can pedal out your feet, push into your palms, spread the shoulder blades, draw the belly in. And then come to high plank and come down to your hands and knees. So here we are again where we were moments ago without the tricky entry that I wanted to show you. And typically, as we start to extend one leg back, folks in yoga classes will do knee to nose. So the left leg, for example, will go back. On inhale and exhale, pull in. So today, instead of emphasizing the drawing of the core in and pulling the knee underneath you like this, I want you to emphasize the back extension. And don't go too far up. You can even stay an inch off the mat and hover there. Inhale and then exhale, just almost let the legs swing like a pendulum underneath you. And then inhale, kick back, finding that muscle engagement, and let that lift your chest forward and your gaze forward. And then release the leg. And just do this about 5 times. And again, I'm not trying to forcibly pull knee to nose. My force or my emphasis is on strengthening the back leg. You can think of kicking someone behind you or an object, but not lifting the leg too high. And let's try the other leg. Inhale back, exhale. You can almost let this right knee swing and then extend. And just feel mechanically how if we engage the back of that extended leg, it will lift the gaze and the chest forward. It's a different and more subtle action than I think most people gain in standard knee to nose. Just swing, 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 and then engage. Okay, and sit down in Virasana for a second and let the legs relax. Stitch the hands together and the fingers together. Just press your open circled arms forward and round your upper back. Let your shoulder blades spread. Inhale, pull the hands into your chest, and exhale, Urdhva Hastasana. Stretch and press up. Inhale, palms to heart. Exhale, with the palms facing you. Upper arm bones billow out. Shoulder blades billow out. Rounding the top of the back like a swan. And then exhale, up you go. You just start to work the upper back with the breath. Before we take this little experiment any further. And then release back to hands and knees. And let's take our left leg back and keep the toes, tops of the toes down. Make sure your hands are just in front of your shoulders. Look down and gently push the top of the left foot into the mat. So now we're using the top of the left foot to push into the ground to feel the tracing of strength from the sole of the foot all the way up to that left hamstring. And then other leg. Slide the right leg back, but this time instead of hovering, push down and almost like you're doing a push-up with the arms, but let it be connected to the pressure at the top of that right foot. And then again, other side. Left leg back, push. Pushing the palms. And then go ahead and walk yourself back to your child's pose. Come up halfway, do a little cat and cow lift and curl. Again, just opening up the ribs. Our morning practice. And then we'll walk the hands over to the left, parallel, and drop in, bowing down. Push forward with your left hand and let the right arm get a little stretch. And then switch sides. Come through center, walk the hands to the right, and drop down to the hips. Push away with the right palm, let the left arm stretch. Shoulder blade moving away from the spine. And then coming back to center. Downward dog. 5 breaths. And then we'll bring the feet together, 3-legged dog, and if you're a little near the wall, as I am, walk your dog forward. And then we'll do the same thing that we did moments ago, lifting and tapping. So we're going to lift the left leg up, not too high, not trying to go for your typical 3-legged dog, and pointing the toes back today. And then try the other leg. So normal 3-legged dog, people are trying to launch that leg way up. What happens, you can try both if you're experimenting, is you lose this contraction, this engagement at the top of the hamstring in your effort to go way up. So we're not trying to go way up, keeping our mid-back somewhat rounded with the shoulder blades spread and just kicking, little kicks. You can do each side and you'll soon get tired. You're looking down at your feet, your gaze. Again, pointing the toes behind you. And then walking your dog back and taking 5 breaths to stretch the hamstrings. Come forward to high plank, and then go ahead, drop the knees, sit back to your awesome. So again, just to articulate that a little bit, a lot of yoga goes for hamstring stretch, and they get overstretched. And although it looks very pretty to do a deep forward fold and stretch the hamstrings, if you don't work on what we're doing today, which is to tone and strengthen the hamstrings and the upper hamstrings, 9 out of 10 yoginis and yogis will tear the insertion point right at the top of the hamstring, which is not a great experience. So let's go back up to our downward dog. Lift our left leg high, and then the same thing, the knee to nose, but don't overdo knee to nose. Just let the knee dangle and the shoulders come over the hands, and then let that retraction and lift the muscles in the back of the leg, draw you back, and then come forward, exhale, inhale. See if you can zip up like we did moments ago. And if you're near a wall, you can put your foot into the wall, but I want you to put the top of the foot into the wall and press.
Let's try the other leg. Right leg back, toes pointed. Feel right up against that glute, working hard. And exhale, high push up to the knee, just dangling. I'm just keeping this knee loose. And then retract the back of the leg, pulls you back, and exhale forward. This is too hard for you. You can do this on hands and knees like we did moments ago. This is a different emphasis. And then come down to Virasana and watch. So you have three options now before we move on. You can do the hands and knees, knee to nose, with the possible opening up to kneeling Ardha Chandrasana. You've got the downward dog lift with knee to nose, building strength. And option 3 for advanced folks, you lift back, you start to open that hip. I've got my right side and take this Ardha Chandrasana movement into a downward dog. Using the strength of the leg, the back of the leg, and make sure you're not too near the wall, to pull, to tighten, to pull you back, and then open the hip. And as I go to my left side, I can just come up on my left fingertips. And see what's possible. Maybe possible to take the left hand to the hip if you're super duper engaged. And then coming down, taking Virasana, and we'll just walk the hands over to the left and drop the left hip down over the left foot. A little rotation, lift the chest like a cobra, come back to center, rotate right, see if you can shift your right hip over your right heel to the ground and little twist to that direction. Back to our downward dog. And now we'll walk the hands back to the feet. And take forward fold. Shake the head, spread the toes. And even here, with a slight bend of the knees, feel those points in the upper hamstrings. Taking the tailbone down as you slowly peel your body up to standing. So the backs of the legs that we've been working on, take a peek. You can even take your hands, got my index finger in the crease of my glute, my butt, and my hammies, and just tighten that up and see how that, if that's active for you. And if you're a standing person, I know a couple are, a lot of people just sit in their hips all day. And this area gets super soft and the muscles begin to atrophy. So when you do a simple movement like the beginning of a sun salutation, which we'll do now, I want you to feel that you can tone the backs of the legs. Just feel that tone, and then that tones the whole legs and the arms come up, and exhale, release the tone, let the arms come down. Inhale, start from the tone of the hammies, and let that lift the ribs, the hands up, exhale, release. So all I want you to feel, it's very simple, toning the backs of the legs, and let that action bring the arms up. The way you pull on a curtain cord or a stage cord in a theater, and the curtain lifts. The curtain is the upper body and the arms and the ribs. And again, for some people, you manually need to take your fingers to the backs of the glutes and feel that. Try not to let the knees lock by the way, which they might. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into a forward fold
lift the chest, and then walk the hands back to downward dog again. And now as you're in your downward dog, a lot of folks that are tight, bend the knees, look toward their hands. We can all do this and pretend we're stiff, and some don't have to pretend. Inhale, and as you exhale, start to feel like you can pull from those backs of those legs to get the legs straight. Inhale, bend the knees, look toward the palms, keeping your chest lifted. And exhale, trying to find that same engagement in the backs of the legs. One more, inhale, bend knees. Exhale. Find that zipping up of the backs of the legs. Even though they're being stretched, we're working a dynamic stretch today. And then go ahead and step or drop. Feet to hands, come to a flat back and fold. Bend the knees this time and come up through Utkatasana.
And as you sit in your Utkatasana, can you pull your tailbone to your heels and tone that same area? So again, 9 out of 10 yoga people, shouldn't say that's like a toothpaste ad, but they're doing their chair with their butt back and not engaging the backs of the legs. So when you get that little draw in, you get the package feel of Uddiyana Bandha, the glutes nice and tight, and the arms are floating, and then standing, relaxing. Now time for the wall, and we're gonna do similar operation. So if you're having to turn around and look before you go to the wall, just watch the first exercise, which is just to place the palms into the wall and pretend you're a horse or maybe a bull. You're gonna scrape your foot along the ground and let one leg, I've got my right leg, kick back as you lean into the wall. Simple. And I'm gonna scratch my mat. And all I'm doing is the same thing I did earlier on hands and knees. I'm gonna try to find this engagement in the back of the leg as I lean forward. It's not that high. I'm not trying to be a ballerina and lift my leg back like so. All I'm doing is simple little scrape. So make sure you do both sides. Again, all we're doing is priming the pump. And then what we'll do is scrape back, hover, and step back to a warrior one, the right heel back, and leaning forward, pushing our palms into the ground, into the wall rather. But as you look toward your front toes, really engage through this back leg. Just as we were doing on our hands and knees. And then step the feet together. Same thing, I'm gonna take a few preliminary scratches with my left leg. And then I engage the back of that left leg. See if you can control your placement of your back foot and push into the wall. The back hammy is strong, it's holding you. And then you're letting the chest expand and press, and then step the feet together. So that you don't have to look at me. Try that a few times. Scratch, hover, step, and then expand into the wall. Step the feet together, scratch, extend back, place, and press and breathe. One more time, just to get the action. Scratch, hover, bending the front knee, placing the back foot, look down. And then bring the feet together and relax. Let's take the hands up the wall like we did last week, with the palms initially facing you. And we'll just slide our arms up the wall with the palms facing back, shoulder blades protract, head nods forward, and just place your hairline right against the wall to tone the backs of the legs. You can think of pushing the heels apart, draw the belly in. And then release. Let's add to that now, and we'll call this the horse scratches the mat technique. And notice we're going back into the standing poses, which I often do because I want to strengthen the back of the leg. But typical, like Ashtanga practice, you're throwing the foot forward from a downward dog. And so you never gain the action in the back leg. So we're going to scratch with the right leg, take a peek first, step back, press, and then see if you could just take your left hand to your left knee and isolate the push to the right arm with the toe to the right leg. So whole line of strength now through this right side. And then we do the other side. Step the feet together, scratch the left leg, hover, step back. Right hand comes to right knee, and now tone the back of the left leg, and let that toning extend your energy through the left arm. And then feet together and forward fold. Come up through chair pose, tightening the glutes to lift the arms up, and then palms to heart. Now let's take this a little bit further, and we've done this sequence before. The way to use a strap to feel some of that same action. So let's take our long strap, if you have it, step on it in front of the mat, and we'll move a little bit. Bring the feet together, strap is just in front of the heels, grab the strap. And then begin to tone the backs of the legs, just as we've been doing, and let that energy spread up into the entire back body, into a nice little tone of all the muscles along the spine. And it starts to float, open the ribs, so that you can open and close your jaw without tension. And then let's step our right foot forward and glide our left foot back with the strap just in front of the heel and the hands on each part of the strap. So we're gonna come into a warrior one, bending the front knee, and then just start to lean forward as we just did moments ago. This time we don't have any hands against the wall. So what's holding us from falling over is the tone of that left leg, that back leg. Now inhale, pull on the strap, bending the elbows, bring them together, straightening the front leg. And exhale, come forward, tone, and just start to move. So I want you to feel, we've done this before, the action of the back leg bringing you up and anchoring you as you come down. Then we'll come up, final time, and transfer behind our backs, both strap ends to the left hand, and just pivot the back foot out so we have a warrior two orientation. And you may need to crawl your hands down the strap a little bit.
So let's extend that right arm. And inhale, straighten the front leg. Exhale, start to dive in toward Trikonasana. You don't even have to go down to the floor. Just tone the back of that left leg. Maybe you just stay here and hang out. Or the hand just drops to the floor as an afterthought. But really the strength is in the back leg. Those that want to take it deeper to Ardha Chandrasana, you can bend into the front knee, set up a side angle for a couple breaths, and then reach forward with your fingertips, lift your back heel, take a few little hops, and then lift that back leg, the left leg up with the strap, and tone the leg. Tone the back of the leg. When the back of the leg is toned, you can rotate the gaze. And be careful coming down. Bend the front knee, and step the feet together. If you're really skilled, place it right back where you started. Okay, so let's step the feet together, try the other side. All strength of the back of the dorsal sheath, stepping on your strap. Again, can you find that toning, zipping up the backs of the legs from the back of the knee all the way to the glute, the sit bone. And then we place the left foot forward, and with the strap in hand, we slide the right foot back and start to lean forward like an airplane and toning the back of the right leg. Inhale, pull on the strap and bring the elbows to bend position. Exhale, drop. But really feel the reeling in. I'm full of puns this morning. Reel and reel. The tone of the back leg. Then the next time you come up, pivot to the right, taking the strap ends in your right hand only. The back foot's at 90. Set up triangle pose. So the left arm comes up and the front leg straightens. And as you dive in, don't be in a rush to drop into the standard pose, but tone the back of the right leg. And in a sense, what the upper body does from here is extra. I can even dangle my arm down and breathe all the way from the tone of the back leg up through the ribs. You can come into side angle fairly easily, bending the front knee, but we've got the tone of that back leg to mitigate the pounding into the left hip, which becomes a problem later on for yoga. You can come up from here, or you can fly into your Ardha Chandrasana by just lifting your back heel, taking your left fingers to the floor, hop, hop, tone that strap leg, pushing into the strap, but more important, how. So toning the back of the right leg, and then you got your balance, up you come. Careful coming up and the front knee, step back and release. So you should be fairly well toned in the legs at this point. And let's release the strap for the moment. Bring our feet together and try without the strap, toning, reaching, inhale, exhale, fold. Make your way back to downward dog and see how it feels now. Can you feel lifting? Even if you lift your heels slightly up, toning the hamstrings. And that floats and lengthens the arms forward. Let's bring the left leg high in the manner that we've been working. Remember the horse technique, scratching along the mat, lifting up, and then coming into half pigeon on the left side. And you can slide back into it and bring your forearms together, drop your head.
So even here, if you come up halfway in a easy cobra formation, just pay attention to what's going on, particularly in that front outer pec. And just reel it in a little bit, squeeze along that left sit bone, pull it into the midline. And if you want, you can come up to straighten arms and just take a rotation, as we did in child's pose earlier in class, the hands to the left, and push into the top of that right foot now. And breathe. You ready? Let's try the other side. Downward dog. And hopefully forever more, you'll be now thinking like a horse and scratching with your standing leg in an open and up. And then coming into half pigeon right side. Sliding back. Taking a moment to tuck that right hip in. And then coming down as your forearms, placing your head where it's comfortable. And you guessed it. Even here, the tone, which we've been doing all in class, of the extended leg as well, right up in this back of the hip joint, is going to stretch the psoas muscle. So don't be idle in your half pigeon today. You can take a little rotation of the arms over to the right. But how much the upper body can extend, rotate, and play really depends on how strong and structured this aspect of the lower body and the back of the legs is. Come back to center, make your way back to downward dog, and we'll move on. Look forward, jump, step, feet to hands, and fold. Chair pose brings you up, and then standing. Let's take a little side trip to rotating chair. This work in the back line, which is really a first step toward back bending, even though mostly today we're doing standing poses and forward folds, is nice complementary work to twists. So let's give it a shot and see as we come into chair and reel in our legs as before. And just squeezing in the top of the hammies, bring the palms to the heart, and exhale, rotating to the left. See if you can, in particular, clench around or draw around that left upper hip. So a lot of teachers, yoga teachers, are always trying to get your knees together. But really, if you feel this action in the back of the legs, and then forward fold, the knees will be no problem. Let's take Padangusthasana. First two fingers to big toes, flat back, and exhale, drop in. Again, even here in the forward fold, I want you to tone the backs of the upper leg. Release, feet together, Utkatasana chair, squeezing into the backs of the legs. That's going to pull the hips forward. And we'll go right to the other side, palms to heart, and then come in. So don't let the upper body plop down. Find your Uddiyana Bandha, find your backs of legs tone. As if you're going to pull the heels right up toward the glutes. And then forward fold, Padahastasana. Separate the feet, slide the hands under the feet, and drop it. Release, feet together. Chair pose brings you up. Squeezing the backs of the legs to lift the chest. And exhale, standing. From here, let's have a seat and do a little bit of forward folding before we close. So go ahead and sit down, and first, we'll do a little bit of work once again where we started with the backs of the legs. And those that take my class in person, seems like 5 years ago, know that I have a special talent for doing the moonwalk on my butt. And you can see now I'm kind of lifting one sit bone and reeling it behind me, drawing it back, and then I rock toward that sit bone and I walk myself back on my glutes and my sit bones. So this action, you probably feel a little bit silly, especially if there's people in your house watching, hopefully not. But I'm working these muscles along the back of the hips to do this. And this action allows me to safely then cascade forward, whether the knees are bent or not, grab the big toes, grab the strap, and begin to forward fold. Belly is scooped in, and down you go. Coming up, let's do what we did earlier. We're going to pull one knee in and extend, and pull the other heel in, drag it. So this is just a reprise or a different way of doing the horse scratches the ground, and it's toning and reeling in the backs of the leg. So if we do one and the other, and the hands turn out, and then the reeling of the feet, the backs of the legs continues, pulling the hips up and forward, we have reverse table. We do it a few times. So most people, I shouldn't say most people, but a lot of people just try to thrust your hips up. So I want you to feel this dragging, and you can do both feet, drag them back, and keep the drag working, pulling the hips forward. So that we don't lose this tone in the backs of the legs. One more time. So once again, pull, and you're pulling your belly in, Uddiyana Bandha. Your chest automatically lifts, and then you've got to really engage the backs of the legs fully. Upper glute, upper hamstring, and glute work. And then take another forward fold. Let's take a little side trip rolling on our spines, and depending on your level of yoga, you can do easy version or full plow and forward fold. So easy version, and making sure I'm not too near the wall, I'm just holding my knees, and I'm just going to rock and roll on my spine. But if you can, no looking around when you do this, you're going to roll back onto the plow pose and back up toward forward fold.
I'm just going to move my body on this mat so that I'm not off your screen. Still keeping tone in the backs of the legs.
This is just another way to do forward fold.
So, and also to trick you or to allow you the benefit of massaging the paraspinals. So let's do a couple of those forward folds. And remember, I started this whole crazy class with this scraping motion, which you're now probably entirely sick of. But if we start with the left heel dragging in, inhale, and then peel it out, exhale. And then we're going to engage the underside of the legs, the hammies, to pull our chest forward as we did before. And then we're going to, either with a strap or the hands, find that front foot. So make sure before you touch your head to your shin, which you can all do, of course, you're keeping your brain and your chronic attention down into the upper hammies. I've shown this in other classes where, just like we were doing our strap work earlier, I'm hanging, I can extend from the engagement of the backs of the legs. So we did in triangle, we did in warrior one. So I could grab my front foot and easily drop in. But what I'm more concerned about is this strength in the back hips. Okay, let's try the other side. And what you absolutely don't want to do is grab your foot, pull it in, throw it down, and then shuffle your whole body with no engagement. So we do our horse scratch, keep the reeling in as we peel the Janu Shirshasana open, and then pull the belly in and engage the backs of the hammies, and then reach for what you can. All the while toning the tops of the legs. So the upper body feels like it's being held nicely.
And then drop in.
As soon as you uproot your attention from the backs of the legs, the low back is now vulnerable to excessive stretch. Coming up, switching sides, and let's see if we can do a Parigasana. So we're going to drag our left foot back, and we're going to place the knee down, and then rotate the body over toward that bent left knee. If you prefer, by the way, to do this pose in the standard way, you can go into your hurdle or stretch. But I'd rather you experiment now with this version with the Janu Shirshasana. You can just, even if you're a beginner, with your fingertips down, pull into that left glute and let it pull you up and square off your chest. So simple exercises like being able to just sit here and, like a child, build strength around the hips, pull the weight over to the left hip. But then see if you can get your right first two fingers around the right big toe to set up the pose, or use a strap. And then bring your left arm up and over. And we're leaning once again. So as I lean, I'm going to take my hands off just to show off, because I'm pulling into that left glute. And I'm anchored, just like it's a strap. I'm just hanging out here for fun. But if you have the right fingers around a strap, or you can slide them forward to the floor, it's probably a good safety structure. Wherever you go with this pose, up to you. Some of you I know can go ahead and take the hand right to the top of the foot.
But what happens if you lost the connection to that back hip and the muscles of the back hip? For me, at this point in my morning practice, my body's not ready for that. So I'm not going to do it. And now we switch legs, we pull in the right leg, take it out, we square off our chest to the right knee, and just play like a kid, pulling in. A little bit of this is pelvic floor work. How do we pull ourselves over to the right hip? And then square off. And start to reach maybe for a strap or first two fingers of left hand, big toe. But keep drawing back into this right handy glute medial. And up and over you go. Side bend. We haven't really prepped side bend, so we at most did our Ardha Chandrasana. And we're really playing the strength here. If you want to try just reaching the arms up like that. It's a dynamic enterprise. And then those that want to try and stretch it, it's fine. But what you don't want to happen, in my opinion, is to lazily drop like a heap into the pose, just grab it, and then try to pull your body into this shape. Your low back will be a catastrophe. Instead, you take it one step at a time, anchoring back, and then stretching. If you can get your right hand to the strap or the top of the foot without compromising your seat, go for it. All right, legs straight. And now we're going to take Baddha Konasana. So we close up clasp, and we can pull our feet in, both of them, and then the knees come out. What's the second step? Take your fingertips behind you, draw your belly in, lift your hips, and pull by reeling in the backs of the legs. You pull your hips toward your heels. And then stay here if this is your happy place. Again, we're just working the outer hips, upper hammies, opening the adductors. You can transfer your hands to second position on your feet. Again, a lot of times people, their brains are in their upper body, they're pulling violently to get the chest up, and they ripped out the roots down in the low back and the upper hamstrings. So I'm just patiently engaging the area we've engaged, and then I'm kind of leaning forward to test it out. I'm having a stiff morning for me, so I'm not going to really go much further. I might take my fingers forward. I don't care, because now this is just working in this area of the around the hip joint. Okay, let's come up and lay down. You can take any inversions you want, and you can take a Supta Baddha Konasana on your back, or just drop down into Shavasana and feel the activity, the actions in the body. The hip joint should feel particularly energized. And if you've done your work, you can let your shoulders release, your arms come out to the sides. We did this last week, but it's fine to do anytime you drop into Shavasana, to take one palm to your belly and your abdomen and give it permission to relax. And then your other palm to your heart center, and then let that relax. So you're welcome to stay in Shavasana for 5, 10, 15 minutes and just feel the sensations like juices flowing in the body, and try to digest them into your neural network so that your body will remember them in the day while you're seated, standing, moving, You'll have a little more presence in those muscles. But when you're ready, pulling your knees in and rolling to one side, come up to seated. Even when you sit, you have the action coiling in, and then the upper body is pleasantly floating.